On the night I was 15, my own father threw me out of the house during a storm because he believed my sister's lies. No questions, no proof, just blind trust. And as I walked into the rain with nothing but a backpack and wet sneakers, I had no idea that the people who destroyed my life that night would one day lose everything while I quietly rebuilt mine from the ground up. Because this isn't just a story about betrayal, it's about how being abandoned became the moment my real life began. Can you imagine hearing this from your own father? "Get out. I don't want a broken daughter under my roof." Those were the last words Mark Reynolds said to me before he shoved me into an October downpour and slammed the door shut behind me. I was 15. No jacket, no phone, no money. Just a damp school backpack hanging off one shoulder, stuffed with algebra homework I'd just gotten an A on. Rain soaked through my sneakers within seconds, the cold biting straight into my skin. 3 hours later, the police called him, and when he heard what they had to say, witnesses told me his face drained of color like someone had pulled the plug on his body. But by then, it was already too late. My name is Emily Reynolds. I'm 28 now, sitting alone in my small Boston apartment, watching rain streak down the window like it's trying to remind me of something I've spent years trying to forget. There's a letter on my kitchen table. Thin paper, cheap ink, shaky handwriting, nursing home stationery. After 13 years of silence, my father wants to see me. He says he's dying. He says he's sorry. Funny thing about rain, it always drags me back to that night, October 14, 2011. I walked home from school like it was any normal Tuesday, backpack slung over one shoulder, mind still replaying the algebra test I'd just crushed earlier that day. I was thinking about dinner, homework, and whether I should spend my birthday money on a band poster I'd been eyeing. Normal 15-year-old thoughts. I had no idea that within 2 hours, I'd be stumbling through a freezing storm, genuinely unsure if I'd make it through the night. The second I stepped inside the house, I felt it. Something was wrong. My father was standing in the living room like a live wire about to snap. His face was red and blotchy, veins standing out in his neck. One hand clenched a stack of cash, the other held several empty pill bottles. Right behind him stood my sister, Lauren. She was 19, 4 years older than me, and she looked exactly how she wanted to look. Shocked, hurt, concerned. The image of a loving older sister devastated by a terrible discovery. But I saw her eyes. Just a flicker. Just a second. Satisfaction. Our stepmother, Brenda, lingered silently in the kitchen doorway, arms folded, lips pressed tight. She never yelled, never intervened. Her specialty was watching disasters unfold without lifting a finger. My father didn't even let me drop my backpack. He exploded. He accused me of stealing money from his wallet, said it had been happening for months, claimed I was buying pills, hiding them in my room, spiraling out of control. According to him, Lauren had finally uncovered the truth. Cash stuffed in my dresser, pill bottles in my closet, text messages proving I was dealing with drug sellers. I tried to speak, tried to explain that I'd never touched his wallet, never seen those pills, didn't even know what he was talking about. But my voice died halfway out of my mouth because I realized something terrifying. He wasn't listening. His decision had already been made. Lauren had spent the entire day preparing him, feeding him lie after lie, each one dressed up as concern. She told him she'd tried to help me, tried to protect me, tried to stop me from destroying myself. She said she didn't want to tell him, but she couldn't stand by and watch her little sister ruin her life. It was a flawless performance, and my father believed every word. He grabbed my arm hard enough to leave bruises and dragged me toward the front door. My backpack lay on the floor where I'd dropped it. He snatched it up and hurled it into my chest, knocking the wind out of me. Then he opened the door. Rain poured down in sheets. Thunder rolled somewhere in the distance. The temperature had dropped sharply since morning. He looked straight into my eyes and said it again. "Get out of my house. I don't need a broken daughter." He shoved me onto the porch. The door slammed. The deadbolt clicked. And just like that, at 15 years old, I was homeless. I stood there for a few minutes, frozen, not from the cold, but from shock. I kept expecting the door to open, for someone to realize there'd been a mistake. No one came. My phone was still on my bedroom desk. I wasn't allowed to grab except what I already had. Inside my backpack were textbooks, a half-crushed granola bar, and absolutely nothing useful for surviving outdoors. It was 2011. Payphones technically still existed, but who carried quarters? Not a teenager who spent her allowance on band posters. Straight-A student, zero survival skills. So I walked. I didn't choose a direction. My body just moved towards the only place that had ever felt safe, my grandmother Margaret's house, 7 miles away. 7 miles doesn't sound like much in a car. On foot, in freezing rain with no coat, it might as well have been 70. Route 9 stretched endlessly ahead, slick and dark. Cars sped past, spraying water, never slowing down. I was just a shape on the roadside, someone people avoided looking at too closely. After 1 mile, my clothes were soaked through. After 2, I couldn't feel my fingers. After 3, my teeth chattered so hard my jaw hurt. Still, I kept walking. What choice did I have? Hypothermia doesn't announce itself. It sneaks in quietly. Your thoughts blur. Sitting down sounds reasonable. Just a minute, just to rest. I made it 4 miles. I remember seeing a mailbox ahead and thinking I'd lean against it for a second, catch my breath, then keep going. Grandma's house was only 3 miles more, but my legs buckled. The gravel rushed towards my face. And then, nothing. 3 hours after throwing his daughter into a storm, my father's phone rang. A calm voice identified himself as Officer James Carter with County Police. There'd been an incident. His daughter had been found unconscious along Route 9, severe hypothermia. She was being rushed to County General Hospital. Then came the part that made his blood run cold. Child Protective Services had been notified. A caseworker was already involved. They needed an explanation for why a 15-year-old girl was wandering alone in a dangerous storm with no coat and no phone. Hospital staff later told me my father looked like a man watching his life collapse in real time. Lauren was beside him when the call came, and for just a moment, just one, her perfect mask cracked, because the woman who found me that night wasn't just a passerby. Her name was Gloria Mitchell. She'd spent 35 years working for Child Protective Services. She knew abuse when she saw it. She knew lies when she heard them. And she knew exactly what it meant to find a teenage girl half frozen on the side of the road with no one searching for her. My father thought he was erasing a problem that night. What he actually did was light a fuse, and he had no idea what was about to explode. Before we continue, make sure you're subscribed and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I read every single one. To understand why my sister did what she did, we have to go back, way before that storm. My mother, Linda, died of cancer in 2006. I was 10. Lauren was 14. One day we had a mom who made pancakes on Sundays and braided my hair before school photos. The next day we were watching hospital monitors slow, then stop. My father collapsed inward after that, went to work, came home, sat in his recliner staring at nothing. So Lauren stepped up. She cooked,
signed permission slips, got me to school. She became the strong one, the daughter my father leaned on and praised endlessly. What no one saw was what she was really building, and in her world, I was never meant to stand beside her. I was meant to stay beneath her. And that was only the beginning. Whole conversations vanished before they ever reached me. Messages from classmates that somehow never sent, group projects I was supposedly included in, but no one told me about. A quiet reputation was being built around me, brick by brick, while I stood completely unaware inside it. Lauren made sure of that. She started visiting my teachers with that same soft, worried expression. She'd tell them I was having a hard time after our mother's death, that I was acting out at home, that I needed patience and understanding. She framed herself as the caring older sister, trying desperately to protect a fragile young.
That night, while I lay shivering in a hospital bed, barely conscious and wrapped in warmed blankets, my grandmother, Margaret Collins, went to war. She didn't wait. She didn't hesitate. She demanded an emergency custody hearing immediately. It was close to midnight, but she didn't care. Margaret called a family court judge who happened to owe her a favor. Turns out she'd served on the PTA with his wife for over a decade. One phone call later, the judge was awake and listening. The hospital social worker laid out the facts. A minor expelled from her home during severe weather. No investigation, no verification of accusations. Child found unconscious with early-stage hypothermia. Father's evidence never reviewed by any professional. By 12:30 a.m., my life changed. Emergency temporary guardianship was granted to my grandmother, effective immediately. My father was ordered to have no contact with me until the investigation concluded. Child Protective Services would interview everyone, me, my father, Lauren, Brenda, and take a very close look at the so-called evidence. As we left the hospital, my father tried one last time. He reached toward me, started to speak. Margaret stepped between us without breaking stride. "You don't get to touch her," she said. "You don't get to speak to her. You had your chance to be a father, and you threw it away, literally, into a storm." Then she walked me out. She helped me into her old Buick, the one she'd been driving since before I was born, wrapped another blanket around my shoulders, even though the heater was blasting. "I don't have anything," I whispered through tears. "No clothes, nothing." She squeezed my hand. "You have me, and I have a Target card. Tomorrow we shop. Tonight you eat soup and sleep in a bed where no one will ever throw you out." That was the first night of my new life. My grandmother's house had 3 rules: breakfast at 8, homework before television, and absolutely no nonsense before her second cup of coffee. It wasn't big or fancy, but it was warm, safe, and for the first time in years, I could breathe. But it wasn't over, not even close. 2 weeks later, CPS investigator Angela Perez called my grandmother. "You may want to sit down," she said. "We've reviewed the evidence your son-in-law provided. The timeline doesn't add up, and security footage tells a very different story." Lauren's perfect plan was starting to crack. Angela Perez wasn't a box checker. She was a detective in a cardigan. She traced everything: timestamps, receipts, video, patterns. It began with the cash. $800 found in my dresser. My father said it proved months of theft, except the bank records showed it came from one ATM withdrawal made on October 14th. Surveillance footage captured the person at the machine. It wasn't me. It was Lauren. Same jacket, same ponytail, same white sedan parked behind her, with the dent in the bumper she'd gotten backing into a mailbox the previous summer. At the exact time of the withdrawal, I was sitting in 5th period chemistry. Attendance records confirmed it. My teacher even remembered me asking about covalent bonds. My alibi wasn't just strong, it was airtight. Then came the burner phone, purchased 4 days earlier at a convenience store 2 blocks from Lauren's gym, paid in cash,
Security footage showed her in yoga pants, her car clearly visible through the window. Not exactly criminal mastermind behavior. The pills were next. The prescription bottles traced back to Tyler Moore, Lauren's boyfriend. Anxiety medication filled at a local pharmacy. Angela called the store. Tyler had reported those pills stolen 3 days after I was kicked out. If they were already in my room on October 14th, why report the theft on the 17th? Because they weren't stolen. They were planted, then reported missing to cover the tracks. And then things got ugly. Angela reviewed my father's bank history over the previous 2 years. Forged checks, dozens of them, small amounts at first, 50 here, 100 there, funneled into accounts tied to Tyler's business ventures. Total stolen, just under $18,000. Lauren hadn't just framed me, she'd been stealing from our father for years and needed me gone before anyone noticed. My grandmother hired Robert Hale, a seasoned family law attorney and longtime family friend. He'd heard my mother since childhood. When he heard what happened, his expression hardened in a way that told me everything I needed to know. He filed for permanent guardianship immediately. He also filed a civil suit against Lauren for fraud, emotional distress, and financial abuse, and he locked down my trust fund so tightly no one could breathe near it until I turned 18. That year taught me something important. Document everything. Receipts, messages, promises, dates. My grandmother called it paper armor. At 16, I bought my first filing cabinet. I still have it. Living with her felt like learning to breathe again. New school, new start. Friends who knew me, not the version someone invented. Counseling that finally untangled years of manipulation. One rule remained sacred. Dinner at 6. Chaos can wait, meatloaf can't. Meanwhile, my father's world was unraveling. CPS questioned him repeatedly. Brenda moved into the guest room. Their conversations turned cold, brittle. And Lauren, she was furious. Not sorry, never sorry. She blamed everyone but herself. Then, 1 month before the court hearing, the final domino fell. Tyler Moore was arrested in Nevada. Federal marshals picked him up for running the same investment scam across 3 states, over $400,000 stolen, facing serious prison time. The next day, his lawyer called. Tyler was ready to talk, ready to deal, ready to tell the truth about everything, including what Lauren did to her own sister. And suddenly, she had nowhere left to hide. Tyler didn't just cooperate, he unloaded. His written statement ran 12 pages, and every word tightens the net around Lauren. He confirmed that the plan to destroy me had been hers from the start. For nearly 2 years, Lauren had been stealing from our father and funneling the money into Tyler's so-called investments. When it started getting harder to hide, she panicked. That's when she chose her scapegoat, me. Lauren decided I was the safest target, the awkward younger sister, the one who'd never quite belonged, the one no one would believe. She told Tyler that if I were institutionalized, everything would fall into place. The missing money would be blamed on me, and she'd be named guardian of my trust fund. $45,000. That was the plan, to drain my future while I sat medicated and silenced in some facility, my reputation ruined beyond repair. Tyler documented everything, the planning sessions, the pill bottles he handed over, the burner phone Lauren bought, the morning she planted the evidence in my room. He even attached text messages between them, proof this wasn't impulsive, it was deliberate, cold, calculated. His final sentence still echoes in my head. Lauren said her sister was a nobody who wouldn't fight back. She was wrong. March 2012, family court. I'd been living with my grandmother, Margaret, for 5 months by then. I'd gained weight, the healthy kind, the kind that comes from regular meals and safe sleep. I made honor roll at my new school. I'd started remembering what it felt like to be normal. But stepping into that courtroom, I felt 15 again, small, scared, unsure if the truth would be enough. Margaret squeezed my hand. Robert Hale, our attorney, gave me a steady nod, and sitting quietly in the gallery was Gloria Mitchell, wearing the same reading glasses, the same fierce look she'd had the night she found me. The hearing was supposed to be routine, making guardianship permanent. Instead, it became something much bigger. With Tyler's confession and the mountain of evidence, the district attorney stepped in. Criminal charges were now on the table. Lauren sat across the room beside a public defender she'd met that morning. She looked pale, smaller. The golden child who'd ruled our home for years now looked exactly like what she was, a frightened young woman cornered by her own lies. Our father sat alone. Brenda didn't come. The evidence came piece by piece, methodical, devastating. ATM footage showing Lauren withdrawing $800 at 2:47 p.m. School records proving I was in chemistry at that exact moment. Pharmacy logs exposing Tyler's delayed theft report. Security video of Lauren purchasing the burner phone. Forged checks totaling nearly $18,000. And finally, Tyler's confession, read aloud, word for word. When Lauren took the stand, she tried to perform. Confused, innocent, concerned. The prosecutor shut it down immediately. "Ms. Walker," she said, displaying the ATM photo, "is this you at First National Bank on October 14th at 2:47 p.m.? Lauren stared at the screen. I was getting money for groceries." The prosecutor nodded slowly. $800 in cash for groceries. And yet you accused your sister of stealing that exact amount later the same day? Why didn't you mention this withdrawal to your father? Silence. "And this ATM is 12 miles from your sister's school."
What followed her wasn't just punishment. It was permanent. A felony conviction doesn't fade. It brands you. No more careers in finance, no jobs involving money, trust, or authority, no working with children. No positions near vulnerable people. The girl who had always been treated like she could do no wrong now carried a record that would follow her for the rest of her life. The golden child didn't look so golden anymore. My father lost his guardianship rights for good. The court ordered him to cover my therapy and education until I turned 21. He was also required to set up a college fund using the restitution money. It wasn't generosity, it was accountability enforced by law. And then the town found out. Small towns always do. Within weeks, everyone knew what Mark Reynolds had done, how he'd believed lies, abandoned his youngest daughter, and refused to ask even a single question before casting her out. Phones stopped ringing, neighbors avoided eye contact. The church group he'd attended for years suddenly seemed to have schedule conflicts whenever he showed up. 6 weeks later, Linda, my stepmother, filed for divorce. She had stayed quiet while everything happened, stayed neutral, and when it was over, she couldn't live with the reminder of her silence every time she looked at her husband. At the end of the hearing, Judge Hastings turned to me. "Miss Reynolds," she said, "you've shown extraordinary strength in the face of intentional cruelty. Full and permanent custody is granted to your grandmother, Ruth Carter. Your trust fund will remain fully protected until you reach adulthood, and I hope your future gives you everything your past denied you." I wanted to say something witty, something memorable, maybe crack a joke about how parallel parking is the real measure of character, but that moment wasn't for jokes, so I just said, "Thank you." As we walked out of the courthouse, my father tried one last time to step toward me. "Sweetheart." Grandma Ruth moved between us without slowing down. "You don't get to call her that," she said calmly. "You lost that right the night you threw her into a storm." We didn't stop. I didn't turn around. The sun was out that day. March can go either way where we live, but that afternoon felt warm, bright, hopeful. I had a grandmother who chose me, a lawyer who fought for me, a caseworker and a retired CPS supervisor who believed me when it mattered most. For the first time in a long time, I had a future. But some stories don't end in a courtroom. Some wait. 13 years later, October 2024. I'm 28 now.
and my life looks nothing like the scared 15-year-old walking through a storm with soaked sneakers and a backpack clutched to her chest. I live in Boston, a small but beautiful apartment overlooking the harbor. Morning light pours through the windows like it has somewhere important to be. I chose myself. I'm a marketing director at a tech company. Good salary, solid benefits, even better people. I started as an intern, and every promotion felt like another step away from who I used to be. And I'm engaged. His name is Evan. He's a pediatric nurse, which tells you pretty much everything about the kind of man he is. We met at a charity event 2 years ago. I was there for work. He was there because he genuinely cared. He spilled red wine on my dress, apologized for 10 straight minutes, then somehow made me laugh so hard I forgot to be annoyed. We're getting married in the spring. Life is good. Truly, deeply good. Then the letter came. It arrived at Grandma Ruth's house, the same house she's lived in forever. She's 80 now, still sharp, still living by her rules. Breakfast at 8, responsibilities before relaxation, and absolutely no nonsense before coffee. She called me and said something had arrived that I should see. Her voice was careful, the way it gets when she refuses to influence my decisions. I drove down that weekend. The envelope was plain white, cheap paper, handwriting shaky and unfamiliar. The return address read Maplewood Care Center, a nursing home about an hour from where I grew up. I opened it at her kitchen table while my coffee went cold. He wrote that he didn't deserve forgiveness, that I had every right to throw the letter away, that he'd suffered a stroke 2 years earlier and lost the use of his left side, that Linda was gone, divorced, moved to Florida with someone he met online. The house was sold. The life he'd built was gone. He said Heather tried to visit him. He refused to see her. He said I was the only person he wanted to apologize to. I sat there for a long time. 13 years of silence. 13 years of building a life without him. Did I owe him anything? No, but I thought about my mother, about the person she raised me to be, about ending cycles instead of repeating them. So I went. The nursing home was exactly what you'd expect. Fluorescent lights, waxed floors, the sharp smell of disinfectant masking something heavier, the smell of endings. My father's room was small. 1 bed, 1 window, a television playing to no one. He looked decades older than 73. The stroke had taken something from him, not just movement, but presence. He cried when I walked in, couldn't speak first, just sat there shaking while I stood by the door wondering if I'd made a mistake. Eventually, he found his voice. He apologized, again and again, words tangled, repeated, broken by tears. He called himself blind, weak, cruel. He said losing me was the worst mistake of his life, said he thought about that October night every time it rained. I let him finish. Then I said what I came to say. I forgive you. Relief washed over his face, until I continued. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means I'm done carrying this anger. You threw me out because believing a lie was easier than facing the truth, because Heather made you feel safe, and I reminded you of what you lost when Mom died. I leaned closer so he could see me. I built my life without you. I paid for college. I built a career. I'm marrying a man who would never abandon me, not in a drizzle and certainly not in a storm. I'm happy, and what you did, that's yours to live with now, not mine. He nodded. He understood. We sat quietly after that. I told him small things, my job, my apartment, Evan, safe topics. He listened like it mattered more than anything else. When I stood to leave, he reached out, not grabbing, just reaching. I let him touch my fingers for a moment. Then I walked out. In the hallway, a nurse stopped me. You're the younger daughter, right? I nodded. She hesitated. Your sister came last week. He refused to see her, told us to send her away, said he couldn't look at her without remembering what she'd done. I didn't know what to say. After all those years of being rejected, the roles had finally reversed. Too late to fix anything, but enough to close something inside me. I stepped outside into October sunlight. Same month, different life. 13 years ago, October meant rain and betrayal. Now it means falling leaves and pumpkin spice everything. Yes, I'm basic, and no, I don't care. It's also the anniversary of when my real life began. Some stories don't destroy you, they redirect you. That night long ago, I lost a house, but I found a home. I lost a father who didn't protect me and gained a grandmother who did. I lost a sister who never loved me and found myself. When I got back to Boston, Evan was waiting. Takeout on the counter, a terrible movie paused on the screen. That look he gets when he knows I need time. "How did it go?" he asked. I leaned into him. "I think I'm done. I think I can finally let it go." He didn't ask anything else. He just held me. Next spring, we're getting married at Grandma Ruth's house. Small ceremony, close friends, good food. She's already planning the menu. Meatloaf is non-negotiable. Somewhere out there, Heather is working late nights, wondering where everything went wrong. My father sits with his regrets. Linda pretends we never existed. But me? I'm in Boston. I have a career I earned, a partner who loves me, and a grandmother who might outlive us all out of pure stubbornness. And yes, I finally framed that band poster, the one I bought the week before everything collapsed. I found the same one online years later and paid way too much for it. Some things are worth waiting for. Thanks for watching. More powerful stories are on your screen now. Click one. The best part is waiting for you.